Run Elite, Andrew here. Today we are talking about Jack Daniel's running formula. Now, this was a book that was written in the 90s by what Runner's World magazine has called the greatest running coach in the world. Now, this guy was very impactful for decades and decades, and recently he just passed. So this is in honor of him. We're gonna be highlighting 8 of the principles that are in his iconic book, how you can apply them to your running. I hope you enjoy. This is Andrew Snow with Run Elite. If you like this channel, if you've seen a video before, please give it a like and please subscribe because this is a labor of love for you. We love having you here. Leave your comments, leave your questions below as you go through and enjoy the video. In no particular order, here are 8 principles from Jack Daniel's running formula that are going to be able to help you in your running, regardless of the distance that you do, that are truly timeless. There are some of these principles that have been expanded on since he wrote this book in the 90s, and they've actually come farther way. We are more advanced with what we know about training right now, but these are principles that even more advanced tactics have stacked on top of, and they really stand the test of time. Number 1 is something, it's not a principle, it's more of his actual formula. It's called Daniel's running formula. What is that formula? Well, we can look at a number of different things, but here we go. We have his VDOT or VDOT, whatever you want to call it. And that is essentially 2 things. All right, so we've got a page in his book that shows you a performance that you've run over a race, 1,500 meters up to the marathon. And you take that performance and you find an equivalent performance across the board. Equivalent, we cannot say that if you could run a 1,500 in this time, you could run a marathon in this time. No, it means if trained adequately between the 2 distances, you could. But what he's done is he's assigned a value to it. So he's taken, for example, if you can run a 1,500 meters in 8:30, you could run a marathon in about 4:49, which gives you a VDOT or VDOT value of 30. So what do you do with that? He's created a basically standardization where you just flip a couple of pages and you go to what the training would look like for someone with a VDOT of 30. And he's going to give you an estimation of what an easy pace might be, what a marathon pace might be, what a threshold pace might be, what an interval pace might be, or VO2 max, and what repetition pace might be. Now that's pretty cool because before that we had to measure blood levels. We had to do all kinds of fancy gizmos, and it's pretty good. It's pretty awesome. It takes a complex thing such as training and distills it into different unique buckets of where to put your time. Should you be running easy? Should you be doing a threshold run? Well, that's what the rest of the book is about. But if you're going to do one of those, here are estimations of paces which hit those systems. So that's number 1. Number 2, one of my favorites, which is the time erodes memory principle. So he's got this as training principle number 10, time erodes memory principle. What does that mean? This is very important. It means that we tend to forget. Let's say training is going very well and your miles are stacking up and you wonder if you need a break or if you should take a down season. We forget how hard we trained or how little we trained. We just forget what training was like 6 months ago and a year ago. The further you go back, the more we forget because time erodes our memory of what we've done. So this is not just applicable for month to month, season to season. It's applicable day to day and certainly week to week. Last week, you did that interval session that was really gut busting and really tough. And you kind of forget because you've done maybe 5 or 6 easy days since. So you feel ready to go again. But we forget that we did that last week and the week before and the week before and the week before, maybe for months and months and months at a time. And we just forget. But we tend to just look where we are based off of the last couple of days. I do this myself as well. When things are going well, you just want to keep going. When they're going bad, we also tend to forget how good we've had it and how good we've done months ago, years ago. Time erodes memory principle. 75% of all of you who are watching this video are not yet subscribed to the channel. So please do me a favor. I really do appreciate it if you could give a like to the video and subscribe to the channel. We've got all sorts of videos for you on so many different topics, and I'd love to see you on the next video. So please, as a favor to me, I would love so much if you would like and subscribe. Thank you. Number 3 is not a principle, but a training technique that he has in his actual calendar. So at the back of the book, you've got different training programs. Okay, something that's really interesting, if you look at early on in a training program, so here is a marathon, one of 3 marathon training programs he's got. So if we look at weeks 1 through 3, we've got some easy running, and then weeks 4 through 6, after you've been doing easy running, you do some strides. he emphasized the importance of strides. And I gotta tell you, when I first read this book back in high school, I thought that it was an afterthought. Let me get the mileage in first. And if I have time and if I have energy, I guess I'll do some strides. I guess I'll add on some strides, as if they're like this bonus thing that kind of doesn't matter that much. And that's a mistake. He doesn't say in his training program, if you have time, do the strides. They're an integral part of foundational training. That is really important. That's why in Run Elite, I make them required, unless there's a reason not to, like you're injured or something like that. But we build up mileage and we build up strides to a pretty significant ratio. But I'm not here to talk about the Run Elite structure. I'm talking about Jack Daniels, who emphasized the importance of strides. I highly, highly recommend doing lots of strides, not just running easy and then doing intervals and hard running and threshold runs. No. We're missing a huge component there, strides. Okay, next principle is marathon pace or race pace. Now, if you look at, let's see, marathon training, it's the same program I just showed you. As we get later into training, so early, later, earlier, later, so this is the latest part of training, what are we doing as we approach race day? Here, what do we do? Well, you see workouts such as MP, running at exactly marathon pace. But marathon pace likely isn't your VO2 max, or your lactate threshold, or your repetition pace. It's none of those. It's its own thing. It's race pace. Now, it's important to note that it's not just unique for the marathon, that more accurately, we could call it race pace, not marathon pace. This is getting into the subtleties of Daniel's running formula, but essentially, whatever distance you're training for, there is a race pace that you want to be able to hold for that race, be it a 1500 meter, a marathon, or an ultra. And we want to do a portion of our training at exactly race pace, not because it maximizes the metabolic systems, but because it maximizes our efficiency, even our metabolic efficiency and our neuromuscular efficiency at exactly race pace. And so before Daniel's running formula came out, we might be doing, and there's programs that have done this in the past, you just run at VO2 max or threshold pace, or maybe easy on a recovery day, and that's it. Well, that is inferior to also running at exactly race pace at the end of your training. Very important principle. Okay, let's move on to page 127. Here's an issue that you might find yourself in that's kind of similar to mine. Now, I travel a lot for races. Just this year, I was in Arizona for a 300-mile race, in the Carolinas, in Tennessee, and in Nevada. And I traveled to Michigan for a food event where I was talking about nutrition and running. And I'm just regularly on the move, and that means relying on public Wi-Fi, cafes, and Airbnbs. That's why I started using a VPN to keep my online world as secure as I can while I'm out there living my best life. And my favorite one is SurfShark. What I love most about SurfShark is that it works on unlimited devices, so you don't have to juggle subscriptions, and they even have some extras like antivirus and anti-data breach. So I just subscribed and it works. So if you're ready to run your next digital life, then go to surfshark.com/run elite, or simply just use the code run elite and you'll get 4 extra months for free. But it gets even better because after that, it's just about $2 a month. And if you don't like it, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So a big thanks to SurfShark for sponsoring this video. And back to our video, where he talks about how long to put into different phases of training. Now, we're not gonna go through the phases of training that he's talking about here. I just want you to see the durations. The durations are 6 weeks in each phase of training. 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks. That's interesting. I 100% agree. Why 6 weeks? Now, if you break your arm, you go into a cast for how long? 6 weeks. Why? It takes about that amount of time for tissues to heal and remodel. Now, they're not fully healed. If you broke your bone in half after 6 weeks, it's mostly healed, but now it's got to fully remodel and become as strong as it was before. But you've done most of the work within 6 weeks. So not a bone necessarily, but maybe your muscles and soft tissues, also your bones, you're stressing your bones when you run. We are giving them a stress, and it'll take about 6 weeks to realize, to benefit, and become stronger and super compensate in response to that stress. It'll take about 6 weeks. Does it mean that you're not going to continue to get better after 6 weeks? No, it means you will continue to get better, but it's a law of diminishing return, which is the next principle that I want to share on page 26. So these kind of go together. Why 6 weeks? Because if you go beyond that and you keep training with the same stimulus, you'll continue to get better, but you're not going to get that much better. Why? Because of the law of diminishing return. Look at this. Whoop. It's all reversed when I'm in the camera here. So you have a training stress. You can call it miles per week. You can call it whatever you want. Races per week, intensity, workload, whatever. We got to call it something. Let's call it miles per week. And then you have the amount of your potential that you will realize. Okay, as your mileage goes up, your potential, you've realized more of your potential, but it starts to plateau over time. So if you go from 0 to 10 miles per week, you get a lot of benefit. 10 to 20, still a lot of benefit, but not as much as 0 to 10. But the difference from going 90 to 100 is a minuscule benefit. Yes, benefit, but less. It starts to plateau. So that's the next principle, which is the law of diminishing return. Very important. You do more, you get better, but the risk also goes up. Injury risk goes up. We're coming down to just the last couple here. On page 238. Okay, back to the training plans. What do you see here that's much different than other training plans? You don't see any numbers. You don't see a long run of 18 miles or 20 miles. You don't see an easy run of 2 miles or 8 miles. No, you just see the kind of running that you're gonna do. So maybe you're gonna do an easy run. Maybe a day calls for a long run. Maybe a day calls for a kind of workout, certain kind of workout, whatever kind of workout you wanna do. But on your calendar, on your training calendar, we want to know what kind of running we're doing on a certain day. And we want to let go of the volume, perhaps the amount of repetitions. Now we want to have an idea where we're going, but we want to be flexible with when we do them and how much we do them. So what I recommend based off of this is that you have days that have, for example, it's an easy run with strides. How many miles and how many strides? Roughly the amount that's gonna average you hitting your weekly goal, but it doesn't have to. If you feel really great one day and you have more time, you run more. Keep it easy, but run more volume. And if you feel bad, if something's hurting, if it's overcast or whatever, snowing outside or dangerous outside, you run less or not at all. And you don't feel like you've missed a day of training. As long as you hit your weekly or monthly goals, on a given day, we just wanna execute on the principle. So is a day off an easy day? Yeah, it was easy, right? So it still fits within that framework, provided that you're hitting the bigger outcomes. So what he did is instead of putting in certain miles this day, certain long run this day, nope, it's just an easy run or a long run or a workout. And we kind of do it based off of feel, knowing where our outcomes are, knowing sort of the direction we want to go, but being flexible. And then finally, this is not a principle. This is kind of the crux of the entire book. This is a big one. I saved it for last. In Daniel's running formula, he makes the argument that your performance is based off of the product or the sum, however you want to look at it. It is the combination of 3 things. Number 1 is your VO2 max, your aerobic capacity. Number 2 is your lactate threshold. Number 3 is your efficiency or running economy. Now, this is absolutely true. And there's a huge caveat to this. These things are gonna determine your performance, sort of. I mean, there's a million things, right? If there's a headwind versus a tailwind, that determines your performance. But come on now, we're looking at the things that we really move in training. These 3 things are really important. And the mistake that a lot of runners make is thinking that they are of equal importance, because they're not at all. Even as a follow-up to his book, Jack Daniels has a DVD course that you can get, which I have. I bought it many years ago, as soon as I found out about it. And it's him teaching at university, his running formula, basically. He himself says this, they're not equal. So what's the most important one? It is your running economy. VO2 max, your aerobic threshold, lactate threshold, the rate at which you can clear byproducts, metabolites of your metabolism as quickly as you can make them. So you make them and clear them at the same rate. At some point, you start making them faster than you can clear them. And so lactate threshold starts to go up. You don't need to know that much about that right now. But the point is, VO2 max and lactate threshold training, they're important, but not anywhere near as important as the giant opportunity of running economy. So what does he say to train your running economy? He does a couple of things. One of them is repetition training. Repetition training is essentially a stride, but maybe longer. It's essentially a stride. Depends on how you define it. Repetition training is running fast, yet relaxed. Pretty dang fast. Mile race pace, maybe faster, maybe slower. It's middle distance where you're running quite quick, faster than marathon pace for sure. Not an easy run. You're running quick, but you're gonna do it very short and you're gonna do it regularly throughout your training. Now that makes you more efficient. Running faster makes you more efficient, provided that you're not running so fast that you get tense and inefficient. So we want to be relaxed. So he calls it repetition training. Another form of this is strides. And yet another form of this that he doesn't talk about in his book, Brad Hudson talks about in his book, I talk about in my book, is hill sprints. But we're talking about Jack Daniels here. So how does he say to do it? Repetition training, strides. Also, lots of easy running. Easy running does improve your running economy, provided that you do it at a high volume. So we want to spend a lot of time in foundational training. Okay, I really hope that you got something from that. Jack Daniels, rest in peace, sir. What a blessing the running community has had to have your influence over the last 30 or more years. He was a coach at SUNY University of Cortland in New York. He was an exercise physiologist. He was a teacher. He was an author. My gratitude to you, sir. For those of you who have been watching the channel for a while, you may know about the Run Elite book, where I go super deep into mindset and the structure of training. And I'm working on the second book right now, which is on nutrition for elite endurance performance. It's got a while to go, but I did just spend an entire week on writing retreat, and I've got about 200 pages written already. So it's in the works, it's coming, but it's gonna take a while. So if you wanna know more about training structure and mindset, pick up a copy of Run Elite, Train and Think Like the Greatest Runners of All Time. If you wanna know more about nutrition, I have another book coming out on that. But there's a couple resources that I'll drop for you below that aren't mine. They're just people who are extraordinarily smart. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you. This has been Andrew Snow with Run Elite. Bye-bye. Hello, good day, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon. On the 6-week phase concept, I understand how we could apply that, how we do apply that today in our support and specialized training. What about during the base? If we've got a longer than, we've got our 12 weeks or 18 weeks before we're going to start the build towards the next race, how would the 6-week phase training show up in the base phase?
Yeah, in two ways. The first one is that you still can increase the stress on your body, just not with workouts. You might increase mileage or increase your ratio of strides or add in hill sprints or add in strength training or start working on a long run. These are all ways that you can increase the load that your body is receiving for adaptation without going into peaking too soon.
Right, but you'd be consistently looking at that on 6-week blocks, 6-week blocks, basically.
Pretty much. Now, remember that 6 weeks isn't the best. It's just the best for a relatively short period of time. Would it be better to do the same stimulus for 8 weeks or 20 weeks? The answer is essentially yes, provided that you don't have to crack the whip that your race is coming up, because training takes a long time if you do that. So I actually recommend that we spend at the bare minimum 6 weeks in base training. I think it's not enough at all. To create a breakthrough in performance, we need to be in base training for a much longer time, like 6 months or even longer. And it's not like at every 6 weeks we must change things. It's just that we've reached a point of diminishing return. You're still going to get better if you hold it for a long time.
Right, got it. All right, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Good question. I love it.